Okay, great, great. So welcome everyone to the CIO panel. My name is Venk Shukla. I'm a long-term TiE volunteer and chair of this track. And for the benefit of you, see, we have brought together thought leaders and biggest buyers of technology in this track. And so please feel free to ask them questions and benefit from their wisdom and insight. So there's a on your screen somewhere, you'll find this thing for questions. So click that and send out your questions. Don't have to wait. Whenever you're ready. So let me first introduce the moderator of this panel. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff Nadler is the Chief Information Officer of Teladoc Health, overseeing enterprise information technology, information security, and infrastructure for all Teladoc divisions globally. Previously, he was Chief Technology Officer for Active Health Management, independent subsidiary of Aetna. He brings more than 25 years of strategic leadership in information technology, and he has specialized expertise in healthcare, financial services, and insurance industries. He's adept at developing enterprise-scale custom application platforms with proven scalability, performance, security, and reliability. Thanks, Jeff, for agreeing to be a moderator. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Venk, for that very flattering introduction. Hello, everyone. It's super great to be here. One little known fact about me that I wanted to share is that I was an entrepreneur. I started the company many, many years ago, long before it was cool for people in their 20s to start their own businesses. But that's a story for another day. We have a wonderful panel here today. We're going to spend about half an hour. I'm going to moderate and be asking questions, and we're going to leave some time, probably about 15 minutes for questions from the audience. But as Venk said, if you have questions, throw them into the chat room. I'll be keeping an eye, and we'll try to pop them into the conversation. So again, great to be here. Hello, everybody. Let's go around the panel. Let's start by a brief introduction, and let's combine that to save some time with tell us some important trends that you're seeing currently, either business or technology related, and tell us where you see their opportunities for innovation. Let's start with Rohan. Please also introduce yourself.
Great, and thanks so much, Jeff, and glad to be here, and hi, everyone. So I'm Rohan Amin. I lead technology for Chase, which is all of Chase retail, everything from the branches, credit cards, mortgages, auto finance, wealth management, and our Chase.com and the mobile app that we have. And so more than 50 million customers on our Chase platform. So that's the team I lead. It's a team of 13,000 engineers, and very focused on transforming banking, as I'm sure everyone is keen to know what's happening in financial services. So happy to talk about that. Ram, I see you out there, and good to be on a panel again with you. And so hello to the fellow panelists as well. So as far as trends, I mean, there's so many different things that we could talk about in the context of financial services, for sure. Machine learning is taking a very big role in what's powering the future of customer experiences. And so that's leading to personalization. So that's a big trend for us right now, where we're introducing personalized experiences for customers. And a lot of that's being driven off of AI and machine learning capability. And so that's certainly a trend. One other one, and then I'll leave it here for others to pick up as well. One that doesn't get talked about too often, but is quite important, I think, is an increasing focus on accessibility, and making sure that we're building technology and solutions so that people of all abilities can interact with them, especially with the amount of digitization that's happening. It's really important that we build capabilities which are accessible for as many people as possible. And so we do pride ourselves on focusing on accessible tech. And I think that's just given the adoption and everything that's happening, I think it's another trend to watch in the focus areas that are there.
Thank you, Rohan. I would absolutely echo the trend on accessibility and being a sort of having customer facing applications. It's very important that we consider all people with all of their accessibility needs and build products that meet them where they are. Justin, you want to go next? Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about trends that you're seeing, business, technology, and also if you see some great opportunities for innovation.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I'm glad to be on this forum. My name is Justin Dustzadeh. I'm the CTO at Equinix, the world's digital infrastructure company. In my role, I'm responsible for the company's technology, strategy, architecture, and also our engagement within the developer community out there, as we focus more and more on software to really enable full digital infrastructure services to our customers. In terms of the trends, we recently published a blog that's available out there. You can find it. One of the biggest trends that we see is the fact that cloud native computing is now really proliferating into every layer of digital infrastructure kind of layers. So we call this trend the fact that cloud native infrastructure will dominate. And we see that increasingly as every new application needs to be deployed on a global scale, whether it's Zoom or collaborative applications or transportation applications, anything. Companies and the developers rely increasingly on digital infrastructure that can auto scale, self-heal, and really be programmed through software. The second trend that we see is that because of the above trend, companies increasingly think about an edge-first paradigm, where previously a lot of companies would develop something in the cloud and they would think about scaling it further out to the edge. But increasingly, companies are now thinking about an edge-first paradigm, where you get the benefit of being closer to your users from a latency perspective, but also being interconnected to a bunch of other instances of software and compute and data. Because of the advent of microservices, every single query that you make in a modern application translates into many interactions and API calls to other kind of microservices that can be coming from different entities. So from that perspective, we see that this edge-first paradigm is really fueling innovation because of new constraints in terms of bandwidth, in terms of physical constraints, in terms of power, the amount of power that you can get in an edge data center versus in a cloud. So we see a lot of interesting opportunities there. One big trend that we believe will have meaningful implications in 2021 and beyond is really the fact that 5G is becoming a reality, and that because of 5G architecture is a distributed architecture by design, 5G will be powered increasingly by optimally placed edge infrastructure. Previously, 4G and 3G could be really run centrally, but with 5G, you will see a very distributed infrastructure coming all the way to the edge. And then importantly, we believe that AI will be increasingly distributed and will move out of the cloud onto the edge at an accelerated pace for reasons related to privacy, cost of managing data, latency and performance, et cetera. And that applies to both the training aspect of AI and machine learning, but also inference. And finally, we see that in the world of infrastructure, sustainability will become a higher priority in terms of how data centers are being built and how digital business will be run going forward. And every company and in the data center and kind of infrastructure space is really focusing on achieving 100% renewable energy, but also carbon neutrality going forward. And we believe that technology will play an important role in making that a reality. Let me pause here to give enough time to other speakers, and I'll come back. I'll be happy to come back to each of these trends.
Thank you, Justin. Personally very interested in your last comment around carbon neutrality and leveraging renewable energies. We all know data centers are big consumers of energy around the world. So thank you. Let's move on. Bill, you want to introduce yourself and address the question around trends, business and technology?
Yeah, Jeff, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity. Bill Miller here, CIO of NetApp. We're on a really exciting journey at NetApp. We're, migrating from arguably the world's best data storage company with the best storage operating systems on the planet to really a software-driven, cloud-based data services company. Big shift as our customers move workloads across the planet, across multiple clouds. And the reality is we're all living now in this hybrid multi-cloud world. SaaS providers providing utilities and tools, the hyperscalers and the incredible marketplaces they're offering, and even the dynamically automated workloads that we're all building in our private clouds. Utilities like at Equinix, great capability to build out private clouds with our partners there. So this data now for all of our customers, it's distributed, it's diverse, it has mass. But yet we want to be able to pull that data and access that data for analytics and machine learning to build models, to build data models and predictive models. So, our mission, our passion is to really be able to connect all of those data locations that our customers have where their workloads reside with a data fabric, and to be able to allow those customers to move that data where they need it, when they need it, to be able to use it, to give themselves a competitive advantage in their space. And we're seeing is, our customers are all on their own unique journeys and their unique timelines and their unique comfort levels with how they want to have data and operations in the cloud, what they want to keep on-prem. And we want to give them the tools and the platforms to make their choices about where that data goes and when it goes. It's really all about leveraging data, being able to unleash the power of customer data for digital transformation. So we're really passionate about providing those highways and byways and that data fabric to allow our customers to move that data, to take advantage of all the great new tools that are out there that we've heard about today from some of the startups. So very exciting time to be in IT. We've seen the cloud just blossom during the pandemic. Right? Everybody wants to be able to drag and drop, point and click into new utilities and the new capabilities. So it's an exciting time and we're thrilled to be part of this transition, this digital transformative journey. Thanks, Jeff.
That's fantastic and absolutely resonated with me, this idea that one cloud size does not fit all. We're all on different sort of journeys of leveraging the cloud, getting to the cloud, hanging on to some on-prem stuff, and that definitely resonates with me. So thank you. Ram, you're up.
Thank you. So I'm Ram Nagappan, CIO for BNY Mellon Pershing. BNY Mellon, caters to many institutions across the life cycle of the financial life cycle. So the Pershing division primarily focuses on clearing, custody, settlement, and catering to wealth management. That's what we do. So now talking about the trend, here is my top of my head. We're moving to hybrid work environment, collaboration tool. What we have right now is not good enough. When you have people at work and people at home and all over the place, and how we collaborate, I see a lot of focus in that area and how to improve collaboration. How can you actually create a water cooler in your environment virtually so that you can talk about it, something like that. So that's one. And the other one I wanted to talk, I know Rohan touched it, personalization. I just want to add a word hyper in front of it. It's hyper personalization, because that's the key. At least maybe every financial institutions are working on it. It's on that. Certainly, AI was touched. I want to talk about immersive experience that's yet to be exploited. AR, VR, people don't know how. And this is where I relate the 5G into the AR, VR to make it a lot more better. So that's going to be there. And certainly from my point of view, I want to tell you, we wanted to get the digital asset classes or the crypto into the mainstream that we're working on. So those are some of the things that come to my mind. And certainly it's all about applying this technology to deliver experience and efficiency. Let's not forget that. It's not about just applying technology for the sake of it. What is the problem you're solving? And I want to tell you, it's experience and efficiency that we want to deliver in our services. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. And I have to confess, I was paying attention to see if someone was going to bring up the hybrid work environment. And if not, I was going to bring it up myself, because as CIOs, our world has changed. It's changed, maybe not forever, but it's changed for the foreseeable future. And we need to think of new ways to collaborate, to work together, to support distributed remote locations where employees are. And nobody understands better than CIOs and technology audiences that, you have to be able to go to a whiteboard and collaborate. That's how we solve as technologists. That's how we solve problems. So I think that this is an area, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the hybrid work environment is an opportunity for disruption in collaboration tools. So with that, last but not least on our panel, Pranab, you're up.
Hey, Jeff, and good to see several of you. I'm Pranab Sinha. I'm the SVP and CIO at Genesys. We are the dominant platform for what I call is the omni-channel contact center, and have created this new space around experience as a service. And the idea behind that is enabling our customers to have that highly personalized experience for their customers and partners, which essentially creates that empathetic moment, which definitely drives much more stickiness. So that's what we are. In terms of the trends, collaboration obviously is number one on my mind, and Ram, I think you hit on that topic. Think about it. Last March, each of us went from 50, 100 offices to 10,000, 20,000 offices distributed across the geos. And what we are left with a very kind of what I call is an initial rudimentary set of collaboration tools that need to move to the next level. So I think the next normal demands that. I see a lot of white space in that area, and definitely want to see, the people who are on the phone or entrepreneurs who can tap into that very ripe kind of the space for future growth. So that's number one. The second one is primarily on the business side. I think what's happening today is the business models are changing, and every business is trying to adopt or become as a service business. It started with the software space, but that goes across this, the spectrum. The subscription models, the recurring revenue, consumption-based pricing, all those are here to stay. And technology in this space is still very, very legacy. People have bought some companies, these are their large players, and it's ripe for disruption. And we feel the pain as we go through that transition. And I'm sure that others would definitely benefit as we get to see more of this across the enterprises. So that's the other area I think really, really important. We see that in the software space, but across the other industries. So that's pretty much it, Jeff.
Great, thank you, Pranab. And I'm going to stay out with you. We'll go in reverse order. The next question is about last year. 2020 was a difficult year for almost everyone and for very different reasons. Can you talk a little bit about some aspect that was difficult for you, for your team, for your business, and also how innovation may have played a role in addressing a challenge or some of the challenges that occurred for you last year?
So good point, Jeff. Like I said, last March, things changed. And what we saw was a sudden complete reversal of how we used to operate, how we used to work. The good news is, all the things that have been done over the last several years, and the preparation around the digital transformation and things, the technology investments that we have made, at least got us to a point where we were equally productive, if not more. Obviously, there are opportunities that are huge in the space of collaboration as we start to continue to work in that model. I think, post-COVID, the constructs are not going to change a whole lot. I think we will see a lot more consolidation of sites, a lot more different constructs around how people work. The remote is here to stay, and we got to make sure that there are, from IT perspective, there are tools and technologies available to make the workforce very productive. So our last year, the big thing was the uncertainty. Going into this, or for that matter, anybody didn't understand, how this thing is going to evolve. Fortunately for us as a company, we got the tailwind of COVID, and the business has done very well. And purely from the innovation perspective, we have continued to make investments. I think our view is, don't let any of these things go to waste. So let's figure out how we're going to continue to innovate. How do we continue to make investments to make sure that we continue to drive the highest level of productivity that we can have in this model, and then also ensure that our products continue to evolve and provide the kind of support we need in this kind of a environment. So in general, started with a lot of uncertainty, but over time, I think we have really, really focused on continuing to innovate, continue to make investment in all parts of the organization, whether it's on our product development, whether it's on the IT side, those things have continued.
Thank you, Pranab. Ram, do you want to tell us a little anecdote from your experience over the past 12 months?
Yeah. See, while we were able to go, everyone working from home, that was achieved. That was not a big challenge, I would say. And also, you should remember that the market was also extremely volatile, and we still handled all of that volume. What I would say that we saw was the digital adoption increased, and also certain digital innovation was also accelerated because of the need. So we did see that. So people trying to mail something stopped mailing, and they were trying to use our digital channel. So I would say how people worked, whether it's our client or whether it's our operations team, they all kind of changed to be more digital, and they actually innovated a lot more new things in a shorter time to make everything work. And I would say you don't want a COVID to accelerate innovation, but that's exactly what happened. People completely changed in how they do, and that's going to stay. And now they're going to even do a little better than that. So I would say from a positive side, it's innovation, adoption. The negative side, it's like how long a person can sit in front of a camera and still stare at the Zoom and all of those things. Challenges was all there. I think it was different, and it needs to be handled different. And it also changed by the geography in which way you are.
Yeah. Totally agree. Thanks, Ram. I'm going to take my moderator hat off just for a second and tell a little Teladoc health story. Last year, almost to the day, a year ago, the end of March, early April, our due to the pandemic, our volume doubled overnight. And I'm thrilled and super pleased that the technology performed flawlessly. But we had many, many, many more people looking to speak to doctors than we had doctors to take the requests. So we had to innovate on the fly. We had to dramatically reduce the amount of time it takes to onboard new physicians. We had to automate it. It was a manual process. It took weeks, which was fine because our supply demand is managed and never anticipates such a crushing volume. We have to automate the process using technology. We also, for many of you may or may not be aware, but there was a loosening of state regulatory rules last year by the federal government to enable doctors in other states treat members in other states where normally they wouldn't be permitted without state licenses. So those rules were relaxed because of the crisis in healthcare, which meant all of our routing rules needed to change because we're treating members in 50 different states. And we had to relax rules on the fly. So for us, there was a lot of innovating on the fly. It was forced. It came quickly, and I'm pleased to share that things turned out very well for Teladoc Health. So let's move on. Bill, you're up.
Yeah, what a year plus it's been. You know, I would say if I look back, Jeff, at a couple different things, you know, first of all, when this whole thing kicked off, even though we're predominantly a software company generating software capability, we do ship a lot of hardware products. Supply chain was very disrupted early on. You know, just shipping units, hardware across borders was extremely difficult to get the predictability. And we're still seeing, I think we're all still seeing today, the semiconductor shortage, right? That's driving a lot of our businesses and potentially impacting industry. So we saw a lot of supply chain challenges early on. Because we are a software company predominantly, we actually came out of the gates very fast, almost too fast from a software innovation standpoint. I would say we were sort of overdriving our engineering teams, everybody trying to prove that they could be hyper productive from home. And we actually had to build some programs in the company to get people to decompress, take a little time off, not burn out. And we've had to institute a lot of really interesting cultural HR sort of models, days off, no Zoom Fridays, things like that, to try to give the teams a chance to recover and recoup, you know, to get off the front lines. Still seeing some of those challenges. I know all of us have colleagues and friends suffering in India today, and it is very much still in play, the pandemic, depending on where you are geographically. So it's been very challenging there. Had great acceleration in our cloud offerings and cloud businesses. It's been a wake-up call for everybody that cloud is here. It provides not only some real notable cost and flexibility advantages, but it just allows you to secure your capabilities out there when maybe you can't get to and touch those assets. So I think I think we're more efficient today, and I think that's here to stay, a lot less wasted time. We've figured out how to operate across geographies, across time zones. You know, it used to be, I think when we all started this, that if you were in another geography and you were on a VTC call, you were sort of the odd man out, right? You weren't part of the crew. I think we're all feeling like we can operate in that mode very effectively today. So let's hope we take that forward as the pandemic winds down, and those are muscle memory behaviors that we've developed. So, you know, I'll finish by saying, Jeff, even subtleties like our customer briefing center activities. We used to bring everybody in and have a wonderful lunch, and we spent a lot of time bonding. Gosh, now it's surgical strikes. We're getting at C-level people that will come to these calls for a half hour that would have found it difficult to travel in the past. So we're kind of changing the way we relate to our customers, and we embrace our customers and have those dialogues. So it's been, in a lot of ways, very refreshing in the midst of a very challenging year.
Thanks, Bill. Great answer. Justin, I'm going to throw you a little curveball. Vinc's been feeding some questions into the chat room. Tell us how you interact with startups. How can a fledgling new company, how can they work with you? How can they get in front of you? How can they get your time to share their new product, new service, et cetera?
That's a great question. Well, as the CTO of the company, one of the hats that I wear is really to keep myself and the team and the company up to date with the latest and greatest technologies and the innovation and the disruptive technologies that become available, and to really think about which ones of those technologies fit our needs and can help us serve our customers in new and better ways. So a number of ways that startups can interact with us. Sometimes I reach out to startups that I happen to know, or I get introduced to. Sometimes the startups reach out to me via LinkedIn or through common contacts. So there is really no unique way for startups to interact with us. I personally commit to responding at least to all requests and help them in any way that I can. For us today, really the focus is on technologies that can help us in our journey to offer digital infrastructure capabilities as a service to customers. And software increasingly plays a more important role in that equation. Today, if you look at how customers consume infrastructure, given that hybrid multi-cloud architecture becomes really the architecture of choice for almost 10,000 customers today, it becomes increasingly complex to manage different layers of the stack, whether it's colo, it's networking, it's bare metal compute. And if you have to do that across a number of sites on your colo or on-prem infrastructure, but also across many clouds or different clouds, that becomes a very complex distributed infrastructure to manage. And we all know that that does not scale at the human level. You need to leverage software, you need to be able to manage that infrastructure just like your fleet of servers with cloud native technology. So I personally spend a lot of time looking at those companies, but also inside the data center, what happens in that world is fascinating in terms of the improvements that you can bring to the table from a power consumption, from a cooling technology, from a security, physical security, from the analytics and the amount of data that you can capture and make sense of using all these sensors, robotics. I mean, the full stack, when you look at the full stack from physical infrastructure to networking, to bare metal, server, storage technologies, distributed systems, security, you can imagine that the number of startups out there is pretty significant, and we're happy to work with any and all of them. And also on the trend that I mentioned earlier, AI and 5G, we are building open kind of sandbox environments within our data centers at Equinix, so that we can actually invite those startups to come and deploy a piece of their software, hardware, or whatever that is in that environment and take advantage of our global footprint. We have 230 data centers. We enable over 30% of cloud on-ramp connectivity today. We acquired Packet company, bare metal as a service. We're putting all of this together for the benefit of the community. And so if anyone is interested, please reach out to me personally. Thanks.
Fantastic. I have to say, I really admire you. I know you're as busy as I am, and I cannot return every inbound call or email that comes to me, but fantastic if you can.
I do my best. Thank you.
Rohan, I'm going to come back to, you talked a little bit about AI in technology trends. Tell us a little bit about how you are investing in AI. Are you working with vendors? Are you working with startups? Are you investing? Do you have proprietary? Do you have your own teams that are building out AI type solutions?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And just before I cover the AI point, just want to go back for a moment on the 2020, what happened. In some ways, the switch to remote work was actually the easiest part of what happened to last year. We did it over a weekend, and we had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people running on Zoom. In the office Friday, on Zoom Monday was sort of what happened in March of last year. But what also happened last year, and this kind of has a point in terms of AI as well, the amount of things we had to deliver for customers in 2020 was just astronomical. We had to roll out payment assistance programs to make sure to help consumers in a time of need. Last year, we had the Paycheck Protection Program, which a lot of people are familiar with in terms of supporting small businesses and the economic stimulus payments and checks that were rolled out. Millions of customers are on our platform for that. And so everything that was happening last year in terms of stimulus, the Paycheck Protection Program, payment assistance programs, that was a lot of work last year. A lot of long hours, and sort of goes back to the points that were being raised around people being tired and exhausted from all the action last year. So there was a lot that had to get built. I mean, the Paycheck Protection Program, just to give you a sense, we had to go from nothing to a full offering and billions of dollars of loans in a matter of weeks. And so, all of that was built, digitally first, digital focused, and with our ability to have, our cloud focus has allowed us to scale very rapidly. And so I think those are real things that happened in 2020. To your point, to your question on AI, yeah, we have a platform that we have built internally in-house. It's called Omni AI, and that is our platform to enable machine learning and AI at scale. That's our sort of firm-wide strategic platform for machine learning and AI. It's a fantastic environment, for our data scientists and our engineering teams to be able to use. They get the data into that environment. They have all the capability there to collaborate and build the right models, and then host and execute them and serve them off of that environment. So we do have an in-house capability, but we absolutely also work with startups and collaborate with others in the ecosystem, because often there are some point solutions or things that we're looking to solve, maybe a unique business problem. For example, if we're trying to solve something specific to how we handle mortgages or home loans, there's or in the auto finance space, there's lots of companies and partners who have specific capabilities, and so we work with companies as well and collaborate with them to bring AI and machine learning capabilities to our customers. And so there's definitely a in-house platform that we have, along with partnering with and collaborating with companies to bring those innovations to our customers.
That's great. Thanks, Rohan. Pranab, tell us how your company is investing in AI, and if I were an entrepreneur in AI, what's the best way for me to reach out to you or to get your attention, basically?
Hey, Jeff, so really good point. I mean, today, the way we approach AI from the tools and systems perspective across the enterprise is what I call is the applied innovation. And the idea behind that is we got to make sure that these things are not thought as a separate individual isolated solutions, but are embedded in part of the solution set that we are looking at. So for example, yesterday we were talking to a couple of vendors around our whole revenue planning systems. And we wanted to make sure that these planning solutions are way ahead on what the legacy that we carry today. And they should have these embedded AI features that helps us be much more, I would say, predictive than what we are today. So we don't believe in building a lot of these things internally, but we work very closely with the ecosystem of vendors. And I'm very open to having those conversations. We do that all the time. The best way that these things happen is through networks. So there's a CIO network that's very vibrant in the Bay Area, and we tap into each other for references. These conferences are really important because you get to meet the vendors. So I'm very open to those conversations, especially where the value proposition is directly tied to the solution set that's coming. So that's how we approach the AI space. I think it's going to be embedded in everything we do. We are just in the first, second innings of that. And so there is so much opportunity around that in pretty much every use case, whether it's a business process use case, whether it's an IT use case, whether it's the product development use case. So it's all over the place. We are going through a major technology refresh. So this is the time for us to look not just next 2 years, but next 10 years, and who can help us get there, and what are the things that come into play. So I'm very open to that. Obviously, it's very hard to talk to everybody. In fact, my calendar, the way I organize things is on Fridays afternoon, I try to keep that open for these kinds of discussions. Personally, it's great for me because I learn a lot from the vendor ecosystem as well. So totally open with those conversations. I would recommend the vendors to get connected to these kinds of network events. These are really, really important.
Great, thank you, thank you. Ram, tell us about AI at BNY Mellon and how you think about it in terms of making investments to other companies, to startup companies, and versus or in addition to homegrown activities that you're currently working on?
Yeah. So my view on the AI is, while we are talking in as if AI is going to be separate, I feel it's going to be in everything that we do. It's going to be there on every piece you do, whether you talk about client experience to data insights to anything that you do, there will be a component of machine learning and some aspects of AI will be there. So that said, the tech stack, we have an internal tech stack that is kind of like the standard framework that people build. And that is composed of both internal developed as well as the outside tools. That's the tech stack. And we certainly work with many startups and fintechs and other capable capabilities that people have done in this space. And that's how the entire solution gets deployed. So it's both. And as Pranab said, we have a group that constantly look out for things that are happening out in the market. They bring it in. And as he said, it's a nice forum to come and introduce their innovations to us. My advice to them is, don't try to innovate the whole thing end to end, because all these big institutions, not like they don't do anything. They always have a frame, something going on. So it's about plugging into those pieces that fills the gap for the time to market, and properly fill in and integrate into our framework is very key. And that's what I will tell to most of the fintech when they build it. As we saw in the previous panels, people pitching, is they try to give you soup to nuts, but that's not going to sell to many companies. So.
Excellent. Thank you. We have a few minutes left. There's a new question in the chat room. I'm going to throw it over to Bill. Bill, tell us how you measure yourself. Are there specific metrics that you look at? How do you know that you've done a good job?
Wow, that's a loaded question, right? I think we could spend a lot of time on this one. I really see it as a classic balanced scorecard kind of approach. When you're driving a large organization, whether you're CTO, CIO in a complex global multinational company. And so when I say a balanced scorecard, here's what I mean. You got to hit the numbers, right? You have to hit the economics. We all have budgets, realities, costs. We've all got to be effective in the way we utilize the capital in the business. So you're going to have economic component of your balanced scorecard. You're going to have a people component. And the people component looks at a couple things. It looks at where you have your workforce, whether you're in cost-effective geographies, where you're close to your colleagues in the workforce, and then how your workforce is doing. We do quarterly surveys around the well-being, and we actually set up quarterly goals on how we're going to take the feedback from our teams and then drive the way we interact and behave so that they feel like they're included and they're part of the business. There's an inclusion and belonging piece of that. You really need to measure that to get, top performance out of your teams and to be able to treat your teams right. So there's a people component, there's an economic component, there's an operations component. We all have operations centers, NOC, SOCs, global data centers. And are you running by the numbers? Are you meeting your SLAs? Are your, P1, P2, P3? Are you measuring and really focusing on all of that? And then I think there's the effectiveness in your partnerships with other groups that you serve. We're service organizations as IT organizations, right? We're there to drive value across the rest of the business and to bring new capabilities to bear, new technologies to deliver value. So you've got to be constantly pulsing your customers, whether they're in marketing or in sales or in engineering or HR, whatever organization they're part of. Are you bringing real-time value and continuous value and really trying to help them affect their bottom line? So you've got to have kind of a balanced scorecard approach to what I would classify as world-class IT. Set your goals, set some numeric measurable attributes across that spectrum and say, these things have to be met collectively in a balanced way if I'm really going to achieve what I consider to be a world-class IT organization. I think it's a healthy thing to do, and you can't ever stop reevaluating yourself for how well you're doing across those different dimensions.
Oh, I hope that answer was recorded. What a perfect answer to a bit of a loaded question, as you said. One metric that I would throw out there, which I'm not sure you hit on, was when you talked about the people aspect, is turnover, right? So I look at and I trend our turnover metric within the department, and I think we all know technology is in high demand. So turnover, is expected, but measuring your turnover and trying to get it down and trying to trend it down, I think, is a reflection on us as leaders, and that's a metric that I do keep an eye on. I think we have 1 minute to go. I'm going to ask Rohan if there was anything, and I doubt it, but was there anything that you'd add to Bill's very comprehensive answer on measuring ourselves?
Bill had a very complete answer. I guess days that I'm still employed is the other metric that I use, or days that Jamie is still happy with whatever I'm doing. So maybe that's the other metric. But on a serious note, I think the other thing I do look at very carefully across all the different metrics is we have a whole effort around manager excellence, because at scale, leadership is your ability to actually make sure that other leaders in the organization are doing everything they can. And so we ask our employees, how effective is your manager? And that to me is sort of like the really important to get at in terms of making sure that all the things you want to do and drive are happening at scale. In your organization, the effectiveness of the management team that you have, that frontline leader, that second line leader, that third line leader, and doing that at scale is something that we pay attention to very closely.
Totally agree, and thank you. I want to thank all of our esteemed members of this panel. It was fantastic. It was super fun. I'm sure the audience got a lot out of it, and so thank you very much. And I don't know where to pass it to, but I think we're wrapped up.
Great. No, thanks. Thank you all, guys. I think it's very rare for this audience to get access to so many thought leaders and big buyers of technology. So I think this was a very, so thank you, Jeff. You did a wonderful job of moderating this panel. So the audience is here. I'm sure she benefited a lot from it. So thank you all, and hopefully you guys had good enough experience that next time TiE organizes an event like this, you guys would be willing to do that again.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.